have a Prize Picks math problem here, and you realize we are a bad at math podcast. So, best daily fantasy game in America. Download the app, use the code Staples, play $5, get $50 instantly. So I'm looking at the Quinn Ewers passing yardage number on Prize Picks, and it's 238.5. You decide if it's going to be less than or more than. That's one square. You pick at least 2 squares. The more squares you pick, the higher the potential payout. All right. So that's the deal. I'm looking at the receiving yardage totals on Prize Picks for the Texas receivers in this Ohio State game. And we've talked a lot about this, Ari, where Ohio State's defense, the last 2 games against teams that are pretty good at throwing the ball. Well, Tennessee was okay at it. Oregon was excellent at it. Neither one could get anybody open against Ohio State. So I'm looking at the receiving yardage totals. So Quinn Ewers has got to go up to 200. What did I just say? 238.5. So we've got DeAndre Moore at 26.5, Gunnar Helmet 43.5, Jadon Blue at 14.5, Matthew Golden at 64.5, and he's been the best of the Texas receivers the last few games. Ryan Wingo at 21.5 and Trey Wisner at 18.5. I'm not great at math, Ari, but none of all those numbers together don't add up to 238.5. Where's the rest of it coming from?
That's a good question. I never thought of that. I don't know.
I realize our friends at Prize Picks, there's probably a quant that works there who can explain, well, the way this works with receivers is always some guy who overachieves and some guy who underachieves. Yeah. And so
we're both running back.
Where it's going to come from is like,
did
what's
you
that?
list the running backs too there?
I did.
Totals? Oh,
yeah. Jadon Blue and Trey Wisner were in there.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like they all have their numbers, Andy, but one would probably far exceed that, which then brings you to the total. Like just because that's where the number is set, I don't know if that necessarily means.
Like Ryan Wingo, who has a very low number. His number is 21.5.
60 yards on the first play of the game, for instance. Like
correct. Yeah.
And I think that like here's the actual. Now that I'm thinking about it, here's the truth, and it's kind of the same thing I think you get with on the Ohio State side of this too. Is like when a team has a ton of players who kind of trade places of being the man that game. It's hard to set the line. Like that's like Jeremiah Smith's number is pretty low for this game. And it's like,
well, they also don't have an Isaiah Bond number, which I can understand because he's had injury issues and you're not really sure what they're going to be able to get out of him.
But the numbers are down because that game is more like choosing who do you think it's going to be today, not who's going to who's going to be the guy today.
And this is my question for you. Given what we've seen from Ohio State's defense these last couple of weeks, is it possible they just aren't getting there?
So I've been texting with a friend this entire show that is like one of my good buddies here. Shout out David. He's a huge Texas fan, right? And he texted me, I haven't listened to your prediction show yet, but
he probably shouldn't.
That's what I said. I said, you probably shouldn't. He goes, but Texas is going to win.
Ooh,
and
okay.
I kept pushing back at him, and the Texas fan.
What's the path? Like I'm legitimately curious because I've said what I think the Texas path to winning is, and it's obviously the defense continues to play great, but the offense does not hit one of those lulls that they are consistently scoring throughout the game. The team we saw that you and I saw in Ann Arbor that ran the ball effectively, which allowed the passing game to be explosive. Like that's the team that can beat Ohio State.
I'm going to read you his path.
Okay. All right.
Because I do like talking to people who are like close to the team. Okay.
Yeah.
Here you go, David. Here's your shot. He goes, I see unilateral support of Ohio State -6. Literally everybody thinks Ohio State's going to cover. That's good news for us, including from the Texas side. People, Texas fans also think they're going to lose. We have great defense, a Thorpe Award winner. Sark calls a decent game. We get our 2-minute offense running, offensive tackles going, and Quinn Ewers has a good game. It's going to be a low-scoring game. Will Howard,
but it may not be a low-scoring game.
This is his thought. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they still have Ryan Day. Will Howard ain't shit. We've beaten him 10 times. My take is that Ohio State is great. It's the semifinals, and they're the favorite to win it all for a reason. But people often suffer from recency bias, especially in sports. Texas has a Georgia linebacker problem. That is it. We have dudes everywhere too. You know that. We also have a better quarterback and coach.
He knows that Will Howard it's not just Deuce Vaughn that he's handing off to anymore?
He does. I've been pushing back at him, but
okay.
I'm just giving you his thoughts. Then he says, we have a Sark problem when we're ahead. He tightens up. Maybe some of that was not having Williams in the run game, less triple spin fake reverse screens to back up tight ends against this OSU team, more spread it out and let Quinn do his thing. We have all got weapons. I'm on my 4th Zen and fired up right now. It's 8:30 as a Texas.
I don't see the path working the same way as he does. I don't see it work. Like I just don't see them holding this Ohio State to a low score, because unless they just lose their minds again and forget Jeremiah Smith's on the team, which I don't think they're going to do, I think they're probably going to score. So, but a Texas front, a Texas offensive line, which we have seen this against a really good defensive line already with Michigan, like that opens holes, that pounds you up front. That team can win. That team can win. Not cover. Win this.
Well, here's the deal, Andy. And the one thing that he said that struck me as true is, in sports, especially me, this is something that I struggle with. I am a prisoner of moments. Okay.
Yes.
When things are happening in the moment, like I get really fired up about what's going on in the moment. And I know that's something I need to work on. The entire world thinks what I think right now. Like, I'm not providing anything to you.
Yeah, and this is the part that I've pushed back on you with Ohio State, is that we've seen it 2 games. We've not seen it 14 games.
Yeah. And like, it's possible. I need to go look at like what the percentage of the plays are in terms of like the public, because the line isn't moving. And if all the action was moving to Ohio State, you would expect that the line would creep up to 7, maybe 7.5. But usually when everybody thinks something is going to happen, that thing doesn't happen. So we'll see. Texas has a lot of really good players, and I picked them to win the national championship before this started for a reason. Like, I don't want to get so caught up in the Ohio State is amazing conversation that we lose sight of Ant Hill and Colin Simmons and Isaiah Bond and Quinn Ewers and 2 really good running backs and Kelvin Banks and all the, like, Texas has a lot of really good players too.
Texas is loaded.
They are loaded.
Ethan Burke is not even officially a starter for Texas. And would start for pretty much every other team.
They have a lot of really good players. So and like the thing too is, and we didn't talk about this, and like, listen, pal, I got nothing going on. We can do this episode for another hour if you want.
Well, JD needs to come on at some point. So
no, we got 14 minutes. Who's got the coaching edge?
I don't necessarily think that Sark has a coaching edge over Ryan Day. I was talking about this with my friend Patrick Maher and Dustin Sweetelson yesterday. They just started their new show on Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM. Plug for them because they're awesome. They're doing the new night show on Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM. And Patrick, he's the most down on James Franklin of any human being I've ever met. But he's also very down on, like, he's down on every coach that every fan is down on.
The sentiment is down on
10 times as much. So he hasn't let go of any Sark USC stuff. He hasn't let go of any Ryan Day stuff.
Let go of Sark USC stuff?
No, like whatever negative about a coach, he absorbs it and holds it. And so he's like,
my wife getting mad at me for ghosting a girl in high school. What are you talking about?
I know, but that's what he's like. He's like, one of these coaches who we all think is a dumbass is going to win the national title. I'm like, maybe they're good coaches, Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sark is completely absolved of his USC sins.
I think so too. I think we're dealing with a different person now.
Yeah, I don't know that he's
completely different.
Like,
yeah,
I thought that it was a weird hire when they hired him. I'll admit.
But I love what he's done there, and that's why we were laughing about the Jimmy Sexton, throw the Adam Schefter bomb out there. NFL teams are, look, I know you're trying to get your guy a raise, but what he's done to put Texas in a position to be here every single year is exactly what you want. And even if they don't win it this year, let's say they lose Friday or they win Friday and they don't win the national title, he's going to have them back here pretty much every year if he keeps doing what he's doing.
Well, let me just talk to you, my wife, babe. So sorry for trying to make out with Sharon Silverstein at Camp Vermont in 2002. I'm like really, really upset about that.
Oh
I
my
did not
God.
send you to go-kart camp. Okay.
But now but it is interesting. I hadn't thought about it this way, but all four of these coaches have their demons or their things that in the past we've dinged them for. And somebody's going to be, I don't know about absolved, vindicated, but somebody's going to be holding that lipstick trophy in a week and a half.
Beats Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Shut up. If Ryan Day wins the national championship, shut up about 98% of the things. There's one thing you can still talk about. Michigan fans, you should hold that over his head until he shows he can win that game. If Sark wins the national championship, I mean, like the discourse about Sark coming into last year was the man has never won 10 games in his entire career. That was the number one like counterpoint to playoff picks before.
Yep.
And it's like, well, you know what? Nothing happens for the first time until it happens, pal. I'm like been more critical of James Franklin of anybody on earth. And it's like, there's still part of me that is skeptical. It's like, okay, they had the easiest possible path. If they go out and lose to Notre Dame, how much really changed? Or was it just an advantageous situation? Like, I'm with you. I'm there. But if he goes out and wins, shut up. And that's the cool thing about, like, having new blood in here. Like, it's the chance to change the narrative.
It's like when Kirby Smart sent all 1980 jokes into the sun. Like, you never have to worry about those again.
And like it's not funny anymore. It's not true anymore.